Thank you. So now, without further ado, let me introduce from Patriotic Alternative, Laura Towler.
Hey, oh wow, I'm really close to the camera. How's it going?
Very good. Well, thank you as well to you, Laura, for accepting this debate. There was a lot of debate going on Twitter and in the comments, and a lot was said over the last kind of 7 days, and I think it was the right thing to do to have this debate. So I'm really happy that you accepted, and much respect to you. And I know many people didn't want this to happen. I was even getting messages yesterday from people trying to dissuade this to happen. And what can be bad about a healthy discussion over ideology? So thank you, Laura, for coming here.
No problem. Well, thank you for inviting me. Not many people are willing to talk to people with different views, and also thank you to you, Simon, because I know you've been working really hard and you're really busy lately. So, thank you.
No worries at all.
So I think we'll hand over to you, Simon. Say whatever you want to say and how you want to get this thing started.
Right. Well, okay. I mean, everybody. The first question people are going to say is, "What's your views on immigration?" Now, this goes to both of you. So, what we'll do, since you're the host, you can wait because she's a lady. You go first, Laura. Well, how do you feel about immigration? What would you do to change immigration? Would you stop it? Would you curtail it? How would you deal with it?
Well, I've wrote an initial statement, if that's okay, which does cover immigration. It details what my concerns are and then what I think the country would be like. Would it be okay to read my statement?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. So I just wanted to introduce myself to the audience and say that my name is Laura Towler and I am the deputy leader of an organisation called Patriotic Alternative. And I know that Rikki pitted this debate as being inclusive patriotism versus exclusive patriotism, which is something I've never heard before. But basically, I'm here today representing nationalism. So nationalism is the belief that all groups of people have the right to their own home. So this is a home where their people can flourish and then their culture can flourish as an extension of that. A home where their children can be away from harm and conflict, and a home where they can govern themselves and have self-determination. So I believe that the British have a right to that, just as every other group has a right to that. This does not mean that Britain has to be 100% white. It simply means that we, the British, should be the majority in our own country. So at the moment, Britain is around 75% white British. So this is a figure which has dropped from 82% in 2011 and from 86% in 2001. So the share of British people in Britain continues to fall at a rate of around 5 to 10% per decade. And if we look at England, then the figures are actually much worse. British people are already a minority, so less than 50% of the population in our capital city, London, in Leicester, Luton, Slough, Birmingham, etc., etc., the cities all over the country. And these are cities which are high in crime and low in community cohesion and social trust. So basically, if things continue as they are doing with regards to immigration figures and fertility rates, then by the year 2060, British people will be a minority in the whole of the United Kingdom. By 2037, British children will be a minority in English schools. And by 2027, more than half of the babies which are born in England and Wales will be non-British. That's only 7 years away until more than half of the babies born in England and Wales are non-British. So anybody who tells you that this does not matter is ignoring reality, science, evolution, and nature. If there's one thing that the recent BLM riots taught us, it's that many black people living in Britain relate more to a black man in America than they do to the British people that they live among. Studies show that every single group of people, apart from white people, have a strong ethnic identity and in-group preference. So blacks, Chinese, Muslims, Jews, etc. all encourage each other to collectivise, and they defend themselves and progress themselves as a group. They are allowed to be proud of who they are. Yet white people are told to act as individuals. The idea that a Pakistani man could be Japanese is rightly ludicrous, but we are told that anybody can be British. You just have to have a piece of paper issued by the government. As our share of the population continues to drop, and as non-British people are lifted into positions of power through diversity quotas and inclusion policies, things will continue to worsen for us. More and more of our people will continue to feel like a stranger in their own home. Crime will continue to rise, more statues will be torn down, There will be further demands for reparations and for us to take the knee. Our history will be continued to be rewritten. The censorship of dissident voices will continue, and our children will continue to be overlooked at best and indoctrinated or abused at worst. If this is how bad things already are when we are only 75% of the population, then what will things be like when we are 50% of the population or less? Suggesting that all the different races and ethnic groups living in Britain will suddenly just forget who they are and will come together under liberalism and inclusive patriotism is a naive and infantile thought. We all know decent individuals from different races, but we are not talking about individuals here. We are talking about millions of people, and we have to look at the trends and the behaviour of the overall group. Inclusive patriotism endorses the demographic replacement of my people, the British. Inclusive patriotism does not care about the British because it attempts to dismantle our identity, our communities, and it puts our people at risk. 10 days after the BRLM Facebook page was launched on the 28th of June, Rikki's organisation posted this. At BRLM, we stand firmly with Israel as they move to reclaim the land that is rightly theirs. Yet BRLM do not share the same enthusiasm for the British and our right to claim our land. I believe that BRLM have wrapped globalism in a union flag and called it patriotism. If anybody can be British, then being British means absolutely nothing, and nothing is exactly what inclusive patriotism stands for. Organisations like BRLM will pretend to care about you. They will present an issue to you, such as 3 criminals not being deported, and they will allow you to get angry about that issue. They will act as a pressure valve, directing your concern and anger towards that one issue, while at the same time telling you to ignore that you're being demographically replaced in your own home. BRLM care more about selling t-shirts and not being called racist than they do about the future of Britain. For those of you who want to address the serious issues that our nation faces, there is an alternative that genuinely cares about the British and our right to self-determination in our own country. I am unapologetically on the side of the British people, and if you are too, then you are welcome to join us at Patriotic Alternative. Thank you.
Excellent. Right. Now, somebody's echoing by. So we've got to go to you and ask you, how would you deal with immigration, and how do you feel about immigration, and then also give you the chance to answer what Laura's just said there, because that was quite a bit. So over to you.
All right, let me first address what you said, which is immigration. So there's no question in my position with BRLM that we have a problem. Everybody knows we have a problem with illegal immigration. They're coming in 200,000 a year. According to the records, it's more than likely more. And it's something that is not good. And it's not good because it's not controlled. So people are coming in, as we see, every single day on boats, arriving at Dover with no IDs. In fact, we saw videos today throwing identification into the ocean, right? So they're coming in, no ID, no background checks. And there is no way that we know what their intentions are, what their skill levels are, what their past education, criminal records are. So and I think Laura will agree that we have a problem with illegal immigration. Now, where I have a problem with the stance of Laura and Patriotic Alternative is they're not just interested in illegal immigration. They're interested in immigration as a total. And not just immigration as in new immigrants that are coming in, people that are in this country that have immigrated maybe this generation or second generation or third generation. In fact, Patriotic Alternative want to knock on people's doors and tell people to leave simply because, according to Patriotic Alternative, they are not ethnically British. I mean, it's a ludicrous idea. It's a sensationalist idea. And it's an idea that is dangerous to the fabric of society in Britain. In fact, I would say that Black Lives Matter and the extremists on the Black Lives Matter side, such as the FF Force, are just as dangerous as Patriotic Alternative. In fact, they're two polar opposites of dangerous movements and groups in the country of Britain, and they both should be treated and viewed as dangerous organisations. So, yes, we have a problem with immigration, but definitely we don't have a problem with immigrants.
So, okay, so you view Patriotic Alternative as a dangerous organisation. Is that what you're saying?
Very, very dangerous.
Right.
Extremely
Okay.
dangerous. And the reason why they're so dangerous is because they believe in an ethnically white Britain. Now, they're painting their picture very, very clean and very nice. But if you really look into their rhetoric, if you really look into their manifesto that they've put on their website, they believe in a white Britain because they talk about indigenous people. So how do they clarify indigenous people? They do it by skin color. So anybody who hasn't got a skin color of white or is not white British is in danger to the manifesto and the policies that Patriotic Alternative are presenting. They're in danger in one way, because they'll be asked to leave.
Okay. Right, Laura, how do you answer that?
Well, first of all, not all white people are British. So there are people who exist, such as the Polish, the Spanish, the Italians, the Swedish, etc. We want a Britain that is British, not just a Britain that is white. Can you please provide me with your source for us wanting to knock on people's doors and ask every single non-white person to leave? Where did you get that from?
How would you do it?
No, you've made that up, Rikki. Can you provide your source?
I've not
yes,
made
you
it
have.
up.
You have made that up.
Hang on. Is there a source?
Where did you get it from?
Your website says, right, that there will be a financial package that's offered to anybody who's not ethnically white, British, or indigenous, or can prove a link to indigenous British people. So how are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? There's going to have to be a knock or a letter at the door.
What part of that is knocking on people's doors and saying that if you're not white, you have to leave? What we're talking about here is voluntary repatriation. Why do you think you have the right to stop somebody from leaving the country if they want to leave the country? If we're offering generous financial incentives for people to leave and somebody says, do you know what, I don't like the way that you've changed Britain anymore, I'll accept some money and I'll leave. Why do you think you have the right to tell people who want to leave that they're not allowed to leave?
Who are you going to select to choose to offer to leave?
Anybody who's not British that wants to leave the country, if PA were in power, is allowed voluntary repatriation.
How do you establish who's not British?
What do you mean? So now you're pretending that the British don't exist? So
no,
the British
I'm asking you a very simple question.
The British are a Northwest European ethnic group, so it's the English, the Scottish, the Welsh, etc.
Okay, and what about myself? All right, my grandparents came from Republic of Ireland. Do I need to go back to Ireland?
Okay, so what ethnicity are your mum and your dad?
They're British.
Well, if they're British, then you wouldn't be offered voluntary repatriation, no. If you were non-British, then you could take it if you wanted to, but you wouldn't have to.
So what about two young British children? Let's say 16-year-olds, two 16-year-olds. Their parents have came here from Africa. They were born and raised here. They only know Britain. They don't know anything about Africa. They don't know anything about the language. Are they allowed to stay here?
Anyone who wants to stay is allowed to stay. It's voluntary repatriation.
But would they be asked to leave?
No. If they wanted to take voluntary repatriation, they could take the offer, but they would not be asked to leave.
Okay, but would they be offered the voluntary?
Every single person in the country who's non-British would be offered voluntary repatriation.
What I'm trying to get to the bottom of is how you're establishing a non-British. Are them two people I've just talked about, the two kids that were born and raised here with parents who came from Africa, are they British?
No, they're African.
How are they African?
What do you mean, how are they African? If I was born in China, would I be Chinese?
Yeah, but I told you they're born in Britain.
Yeah, but I'm saying if I was born in China, would I be Chinese?
But what's that got to do with these two kids that are born
because
in Britain?
These are Africans who were born in Britain, and you're saying that they're British because their mum gave birth to them here.
Okay, so they're African.
They're African.
They've never been to Africa. They don't know anything about the language, the food, the culture. They only know Britain. They were born here, they were raised here. They went through school here. They only know Britain. But you're saying they're African and they potentially should go back to Africa.
I'm saying that they're African, and if they want to go back to Africa, they can. I know people who are Pakistani who live in Britain, because I lived in Bradford for 2 years. They don't call themselves British. They say, I'm a Pakistani and I have a British passport.
What about the Pakistanis that do call themselves
British? If you called them British, they'd be offended. Because they're not British, they're Pakistani.
Do call themselves British?
Well, it doesn't matter, they're not. They're British citizens, they've got British passports, but they're not British.
But they're not British?
No, they're not British.
So okay, let's put it this way. What if the parents came from Pakistan? They gave birth to children. Them children grew up. They had kids. Are their kids British?
You can't become British. You're either British because your parents are British, or you're not.
Okay, but I've just explained how their parents are British.
The parents aren't British. Their parents are Pakistani.
Oh, so no matter how many generations of children they have, they can't be British.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
So that means that over 11 million people in this country are not British at all. Even though they were born here, their parents were born here, their parents were born here, they're not British.
That's right.
I think it's not only a divisive ideology, but it's absolutely bat crazy.
Why is it bat crazy?
That? How could you?
I think you calling a Japanese you calling a Japanese person British is just mental.
As any of the BLM movements, of any of the identity politics that we see in the modern day, it's a really dangerous rhetoric.
I think what's dangerous is you dismantling my identity and saying that being British is just being born somewhere
11 million
or having a passport. You think that being British is just having a piece of paper from the government. It's so much more than that. We're a distinct group of people. If I was born in New Zealand and I had a New Zealand passport and I like to wear a grass skirt and dance around and I was like, oh, do you know what? I'm just as Maori as you lot. That would be so offensive because they're a distinct group of people and I respect them as a distinct group of people. And the British, my people, are a distinct group of people too. And that doesn't mean that we can't be respectful of other people. But it just means that they're not British, because if anyone can be British, then being British means absolutely nothing. If all it takes is a piece of paper from the government, then it's a worthless identity, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned this piece of paper thing, and you keep mentioning New Zealand, Japan. So if you were born in if you immigrated to New Zealand right now and you had children in New Zealand, they would be seen as New Zealanders, and I'm very
my
sure
children would be
they
British.
would identify as New Zealanders.
No, my children would be
and
British.
Then their children would identify as New Zealanders. They wouldn't try and identify as Maori. So you're twisting things up there to try and fit your narrative. And
well, I'll tell you what, Rikki. So you explain to me what it means to be British. Is it just if you're born here?
What it means to be British is if you're born here, but not only if you're born here, if you live here. If you respect this country, if you've moved to this country, if you've committed to this country,
okay, so
you've been given British citizenship, you have every single right, just as much as you, to claim that you are British.
So Salman Abedi, who murdered 22 people in the Manchester Arena bombing, he was born in Manchester and he lived here all his life. Is he British?
He was British.
Right, so I just want your audience to confirm the fact that you think your idea of patriotism includes terrorists.
No. We're talking about nationality.
Hang on. Hang on. No. The fact that he was a terrorist, the fact that he was born over here, right? And he wasn't a terrorist when he was born. Anybody can turn into a complete wankery turd, right? However, I don't agree that wasn't a fair thing. What you just said, Laura. There, I'm just saying.
Well, I'm just making a point that, according to Rikki's definition of what it means to be British, this includes people who hate us. This includes people who aren't even British, who hate everything about our country and want to attack us.
So Britishness is defined whether somebody hates us or
no,
or
it's
not.
just
all right. Here's a question. Can you renounce your Britishness? Is there people here that were born and bred here, that were their family have been here for 3 generations, that are now believe now that they're not British, and that they're from, say, for instance, their family from Pakistan, that they now believe, even though that their mum was born here and they were born here, that they're now Pakistani and they hate Britain? Because personally, I believe that's the case. But I mean, I'll put it to you, sir. How do you feel about that? Do you believe that's the case?
Well, first of all, right, I mean, Laura went for the extreme example, and let's just first of all address that, right? No matter how much that Manchester bomber hated this country, no matter how much Shamima Begum hated this country, they were born and raised here. They were given they were British citizens. They are British, unless they say otherwise. What they're doing, their acts are against Britain, is against the British people. It is against the thread of this nation. It's an evil against this country. In fact, they're enemies to this country, but you can't take away the fact that they were born here. It's simple as that. Now, what Laura's trying to do is trying to say that it's only indigenous British people that have the rights that she's talking about here. And she talks about a majority, where if you watch Laura's speech that she did at the Patriotic Alternative annual get-together, she actually says she envisions a 95% white British population. That means millions of people need to leave this country. Now, the question is, after you've offered your incentives and every single one of them says no, what are you going to do?
Well, when you're a movement or a political party, you put forward a strategy that you think is going to work. So the strategy that we've put, and I'm assuming you've done your research and read our 25-point plan.
I'm telling you, your strategy doesn't work.
Well, I'm answering your question. What you do is you put forward a strategy. We've got 25 points in our plan, and only one of them is about repatriation. The other 24 are about changing the culture within Britain. So we envision that when we offer voluntary repatriation, the people who will take it will be those who either don't speak English, sponge off the system, hate our country, demand reparations, attack us, all that kind of stuff. And the ones who choose to stay will be the ones who love Britain and the British. So we envision that our plan will work. That's why we put forward our plan. But did you want me to answer a question, Simon, about the Pakistanis?
I did, but we've moved on a bit since then. So
can I just ask Rikki a question? So Rikki, all those people who were in the BLM riots, who were like pulling down statues and setting fire to the flag and that, just to clarify, they're British to you, is that right?
I don't know if they're British or not. I don't know where they're from.
You don't know where? Okay, so say if they had British passports, those people to you are British.
If they were born here and they have British passports, of course they're British.
So when you say British lives matter, your patriotism also includes people like that?
All lives matter. Their actions are wrong, and their actions are against the thread of this nation and society. But are they British is your question, and the answer is yes.
Yeah, and I'm asking,
but
listen, when you say British lives matter,
but listen, you're trying to paint a different picture here. Now,
well, this is who you're talking about.
Now, let me tell you the truth about inclusive patriotism, all right? It's a patriotism that is accessible to all skin colors, religions, and backgrounds of people that live in this country, that we can be proud together of this nation, of the flag, of this culture. And it's a uniting force rather than a dividing force, which is what you are proposing, which is that patriotism is only accessible to native white British people. Do you not see the racism in that? Do you not see the divisive nature of that type of statement?
There's no such thing as inclusive patriotism. If your patriotism extends to people from the whole world, then it's not patriotism, is it? Because if your flag represents a nation, if your flag represents a nation which includes anybody and everybody, bearing in mind that around 2/3 people are coming to this country every single year, then you actually stand for absolutely nothing at all. And that's why I'm glad that I'm part of Patriotic Alternative, because we stand for the Indigenous people of these islands.
May I ask you? Indigenous people.
Yes, I do. May I ask you another question?
Who are the?
Hang on, one at a time.
Who are the Indigenous people? Are they the white people?
The British, yeah. British people are
white.
Yeah.
Do you stand for black people?
British people are white.
Do you stand for black people?
I wish all other people as well, but my people are the British. And
do you stand for Asian people in this country?
What do you mean? Do I stand for them?
Like, do you stand for them?
A small amount of immigrants is okay, but they're not my people. I put my people first.
Right. So to clarify that, you stand for your people, and your people are white British. That's what you're saying. Right, okay. And what you're saying here is you stand for anybody who perceives or thinks or feels or are, as the legal said, are British. Is that correct?
No, I didn't say that. I said...
No, I'm asking you, actually. I'm putting that.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you. I stand for the people of Britain, all right? The people of Britain.
Now, do you believe that a black person born in Great Britain or that comes to Great Britain could be more patriotic than a white person that's been here for years, who's an absolute tosser?
Is this to me?
No, I'm going to put it to both of you, actually, because it's a reasonable question. So I'll put it to you, Laura, first.
Yeah, I think if we're looking at individuals, there are good and bad in all races, and some white people are arseholes, but you can't look at individuals. You have to look at the trends of the overall group. And do you know what? You also can't just pick the best people from each country, because that's not fair. That's not how this works. You have your people, and you should be loyal to your people.
Over to you, Rikki.
Yeah, 100%. I would rather stand with somebody who is patriotic without looking at their skin color. The thing that matters is, does somebody care about this nation? Does somebody care about this nation progressing, this nation prospering? If they do, then that's the person I want to stand with. I don't want to stand with somebody who wants to divide this nation, who wants to racially segregate this nation, who wants to discriminate against people because of race, which actually is the definition of racism. So if you look at what Laura's talking about and Patriotic Alternative, they are the definition of racism. And I can't stand that word being thrown around as much as it is in the modern day. And it really loses a lot of its value. But if anybody in this country of Great Britain wants to see racism, they just need to look at Laura and Patriotic Alternative. They'll find it.
So, Rikki, do you support individualism? Is that right? It's more about the individual than the collective?
It's more, I'll judge individuals on their merit.
Yeah, so...
Listen, no, hang on, I'm not finished. The collective is the people of Britain. That is the collective, and we need to reinstall patriotism in this country. What you're doing is you're removing the accessibility of patriotism to anybody who's not white. That is wrong, and that's what's destroying this country.
Yeah, so on your GoFundMe page where you're trying to raise £10,000, it says that you support individualism, so it matters who an individual person is, and other groups shouldn't collectivise as a group. So how would you prevent or break up groups from acting together? Because Black people, Muslims, Jews, etc. have a very strong ethnic identity and in-group preference. So how would you break that up and tell them to act as individuals? Because you're saying white people can't collectivise. So what about other groups? How would you break that up?
Well, I've just told you the unifying factor of all people of Britain, and that is patriotism. That is pride in this nation. That is passion for this country. And the way that we do it is we do it through education. The way that we do it is we go back to the schools. We go back to the universities. We introduce patriotism again. We fly the flag. We teach the anthem. We make patriotism something to be proud of, something to be valued. What's happened in the last 10, 20 years, and maybe even further, is that they have disintegrated patriotism and they have moved it into subgroups and subcultures. Yes, their mass immigration was part of that. And yes, they did mass immigration with a bad strategy, with too many people at once in too many batches. And they need to stop this illegal immigration that's happening now. But what needs to happen for the future of this country is patriotism needs to be installed back in the country, back in the education system, back on our mainstream medias, and stop this focus on groups, minority groups, segregation of people into LGBTQ, into feminism, into religious groups, into this, into that. And we need to stand together and be united and proud to be British.
Yeah, these are just empty words that mean nothing. If you look at Jews, for example, they have a very, very, very strong in-group preference, and you suddenly think by sending them to university or watching something on TV that they're going to forget their in-group preference and just be like, yeah, guys, we're all individuals, let's unite under the flag. Why does white flight exist?
White what?
Why does white flight exist?
White flight?
White flight, yeah. So when a town becomes more urban and more multicultural, why do white people move away and move to a more white place?
Laura, hang on a minute. You haven't even told me. Oh, white flight. Okay.
Why does white flight exist?
Where's your evidence that white flight exists? I haven't seen anything about white flight.
Well, assume for one moment that it does, and I'll send you some evidence after the debate.
Well, or a white flight from where? From Great Britain or from cities?
From cities that become diverse. White people tend to move out to more quiet villages and places which are less diverse. Why does that exist?
You tell me. You're the one who's making that claim, and listen.
Because people don't mix naturally, and they prefer their own people. Can you tell me what incentives an ethnic minority living in Britain has to adopt your form of patriotism? What incentive have they got? Why would they do that?
Like I said, it starts in the school. Why would they not do it?
Not how would
Why
you
would
do
they
it?
not do it? No,
because there's no reason for them to do it.
Hang on.
What they're doing right now is they're indoctrinating children in school, right? They're indoctrinating them with ideas of 100 genders, ideas of activism, ideas of reducing masculinity, a lot of different things that are coming from political groups, right? Which I believe is wrong. Well, not just me. The law believes it's wrong. 1996 Education Act. They're not supposed to indoctrinate children, but they are. Why are they doing it? And how are they achieving it? Because children can be taught things. So children need to be taught patriotism. They need to be taught to be proud of this nation. And they can be.
So what you're talking about here is just dismantling thousands and thousands of years of in-group preference for certain races and ethnic groups and just saying, we're going to dismantle that in some universities. There's no incentive for you to do it, but you will support our flag and our country, even though that means absolutely nothing. I think it's incredibly naive for you to think that. Who does it mean nothing to?
Who does it mean nothing to?
It means nothing to people who already have their own identity. They're not going to start going, do you know what, yeah, Rikki, let's just support the British flag and I won't identify as a Jew anymore or as a Chinese person anymore. I'm just going to adopt the flag. Listen, we had 19,000 British children, boys and girls, were groomed tortured and raped last year. And many of the abusers said that they did this because they saw white girls as easy meat. So how long do we have to wait until this colourblind society that you promote kicks in? Because it's not kicking in anytime soon.
First of all, the grooming gangs, right? They are child rapists, all right? They're child rapists, and they're also racists because they target white girls. They don't target children of the Asian communities.
Sikh girls as well.
And the reason why is they said they will get in trouble by the communities, all right? But that doesn't take anything away from the white person, the Asian person, the black person that's committing rape, that's committing trafficking, that's committing any other heinous crime. What you're trying to do is you're trying to use identity politics to prove a point that all black and brown people are wrong to be in this country. I tell you who's wrong to be in this country, you. And I don't care about how you want to go about your DNA or how you want to go about anything, but you and your organization, Patriotic Alternative, you're a danger to this country and this society. And I'm telling you now, your ideology is not going to work. But anyway, I've already heard that you guys are crumbling from the inside, so that's okay.
Well, that's not true at all. We're actually going from strength to strength. So just to confirm...
So the Bulldog nationalists agree with you?
What do you mean? People disagree on certain things, but it doesn't mean that PA is crumbling. So can I just confirm, you do not care if the ethnic British become a minority in Britain? Is that right?
I don't think I said that. You've been
disingenuous. Well, I'm asking you, can you confirm, if British people, native British people, became 50% of the population or less in Britain, would you care about that or would you not care?
Let me address that. That, all right? Because according to you, your manifesto and your rhetoric, 2060 is around the period when you say that the British...
Not me, Professor David Coleman from the University of Oxford.
All right, so Professor David Coleman said it, right? Let me just tell you something about that first. That is an estimation.
It's based on current trends.
Fact. You presented it like it's a fact.
It's a fact. It's based on current trends.
It's an estimation. It's an estimation.
It's a prediction based on current trends.
Because it hasn't come to pass, and it's more than likely not going to come to pass.
It is.
If we do something about it now, and what we have to do is stop illegal immigration. We have to encourage birth rates to go up. And listen, if you even look at the model in Iran, all right, the Persian people for thousands of years, even all the way back to the Old Testament and them times, have been attacked with real invasions. I mean, invasions with weapons. No, I've got a point. Let me finish my point.
Can you answer the question?
Hang on one second, Ricky. I'm not going to stop you.
For thousands of years, the Persian people have not stopped being the majority in Iran. So for you to predict that in 2060 we'll be the white British will be a minority.
Ricky, you got to listen to this, right? What you've just said is that his estimations were wrong, but you said that.
No. I said they're an estimation, right?
Right. Okay.
That's a fact.
His estimations would be correct if things continue.
How would they be correct?
Hang on. You've just said if we change them, they won't be correct. All right. You said if we change them, they won't be correct, and you're correct in saying that if we change them. But if things stay the same, then they will be correct.
Well, listen, she threw a hypothesis. She threw a hypothesis out, and I threw one back.
No, it's a prediction based on current trends.
All right. I also throw out a prediction.
Okay. Well, let's just for a moment forget whether it will or will not happen. If it did happen, would you think that was a bad thing or a good thing? The British becoming a minority in Britain.
I think that if it happens because I believe the British people are the British people. I don't believe the British people are just
we're talking about the native British, the English, Scottish, Welsh, etc. If they became a minority in their country, would you think that was a good thing or a bad thing?
Laura, who were the first British people?
Why can it answer the question?
Who were the first British people?
British people are Northwest European, so it was the Celts who were here first, and then we had invasions from other Northwest European tribes.
From Germany.
That's who we are, yeah.
Oh, so we're German.
We're Northwest Europeans, yeah. We came from Europe.
So we're German.
But they weren't called German then, were they?
As an English person,
are you a moderator? Or are you in this debate?
Sorry, Shaq. I'll shut up.
Can you answer the question, Ricky? If the British became a minority in Britain, I've asked you 4 times now.
I already answered the question. I don't believe, and I know that British is not just white people. All right, we're a country
okay, but if it did
with
happen,
many different skin colors that have came from many different lineages. And I tell you what, some of them are way more British than you.
there are different levels to being British. You're either British or you're not. So the audience want to know if you think the British becoming a minority in Britain is a good thing or not. You don't seem to want to answer.
I've already answered the question, but you want to keep
if it happened,
you have some great point that you're trying to.
Why won't you answer the question?
Listen, let me tell you something. I am passionate about this nation, and I want the best for this nation. And I know many people with black skin, with different shades of skin, that want the same type of prosperity and good future for their children and even their children's children in this country.
Okay,
that makes
nice.
them that makes them just as much patriotic as you or me.
This was the last conversation. I'm now asking you about the actual, the English, the Scottish, the Welsh, etc., the native British. If they became a minority in Britain, despite whether you believe it's going to happen or not, would you think that that was a good thing or a bad thing?
But I've just told you they can't become a minority.
No, I'm asking.
How can they become a minority?
Simon, do you understand the question? I'm saying if it happens, if we become less than 50%.
I understand.
I'll ask the question again to me.
So the native British, so the English, Scottish, Welsh, etc., the ethnically British, if we became less than 50% of the population in the future, so if we became a minority in Britain, would Rikki think that that was a good thing or a bad thing?
And Rikki said, as long as they think they're British or they're happy to.
Said that.
Hang on.
You
said
right. You were neutral.
I am neutral, but what you said, as long as they're happy to be British and they're British, you don't matter what colour they are. All right, can you reword it?
I'm going to do it, all right? I said that the British people won't become a minority because the British people are made up of people of all colours, backgrounds, religions. So how can they become a minority? It's impossible. I'm asking you about about white people.
I'm asking you about the native British, people who are ethnically
white
British.
People.
Yeah, ethnically British.
Guess what? Britain is not just white anymore.
I feel like you want to hide this from your supporters because you don't want to admit that you don't care.
I'm not hiding anything.
So answer the question then.
But no, the place where you're... I've told you the answer.
No, you haven't. I'm talking about the ethnically British. Would you care about
what your classification of ethnically British is not British to me. British is many different skin colours, many different backgrounds.
So you don't even recognise that there is an ethnic group of British people? Is that where we are now?
About skin colour.
I'm talking about ethnicity.
You can wrap it up. You can wrap it up in ethnicity and indigenous as much as you want.
Rikki, if you think that ethnicity is just
people can't be British. All right, let me ask you this question: can a black person be English?
No, English is an ethnicity.
Is Raheem Sterling English?
No.
Is Rio Ferdinand?
No. Do you not admit that the British are an ethnic group? I know you think everyone's British, but do you think that you can be ethnically British?
I just think the people of Britain are British.
Do you not agree that there is an ethnicity called British as well? So when I took my DNA test, it said that I was British. Can you admit that that's a thing?
Your DNA test said what?
That I was British. Can you admit that that's a thing?
How far did your DNA test go?
Why can you not answer the question?
And should everybody take a DNA test to prove that they're
British?
No.
People know what ethnicity they are. Why can you not answer the question? So you won't answer about the British becoming a minority in Britain, and you won't even admit that the ethnically British exist. That we are an ethnic group. That's how. And you call yourself a patriot. You have the same political views.
People, no matter if they're white, no matter if they're black, no matter if they're Asian, the British people are the British people. You're trying to stand for a skin color. You can wrap it up in ethnicity as much as you want. And look, let me just say this, yeah. So Patriotic Alternative's leader, Mark Collette, young Nazi and proud. That we all saw the Channel 4 documentary of him not only showing admiration for Adolf Hitler, but even showing admiration for Nazi Germany in 1930, and saying that was something that can be admired. That when you see them do the Sieg Heil, that it can be, it's admirable. And before you tell me that was years ago, well, I've read his book, Fall of the Western Man. He mentions 15 times National Socialism. He hasn't changed his opinion. His opinion is that's your leader. Do you agree with that position?
In this debate, Rikki, you do not get to throw the scary N-word now and think that you've won an argument. because that won't wash with me. If you have a problem with National Socialism, then it's now your responsibility to dismantle why you disagree with Marx's ideology. You don't just get to go Nazi or fascist and think that you agree with the ideology because you haven't.
Do you agree with the
ideology? Marx isn't a National Socialist. Patriotic Alternative is not a National Socialist organisation. He's somebody who loves Britain a lot more than you do, and he's a real patriot.
You don't believe in National Socialism?
I'm not a National Socialist. No. Patriotic Alternative is not a National Socialist organisation. I mean, you can't even admit that the British are an ethnic group, and you don't care about British people becoming a minority in our own country.
You're trying to brush this under the carpet, right?
This is the single-handed issue that we face today.
The Nazis murdered 8 million Jews, and your leader of your group is sympathising with them, admiring them. That's dangerous. Do you not see that as dangerous?
What I see is dangerous. You support Israel as being the home of the Jewish people. Jews murdered more people with the Holodomor. They murdered up to 20 million people, but that doesn't stop you because it's not in existence today, so it doesn't matter. So instead of throwing up,
don't forget the 6-Day War. The 6-Day War. Israel won the 6-Day War, and they
why do you agree for a homeland for Jews in Israel, but you don't for British people in Britain?
Because Britain's not occupied by foreign forces.
Well, some might disagree. Some might disagree with that.
Yeah, but listen, you are not answering the question about your leader, Mark Collett, and his Nazi sympathising, right? Now, if you pair the fact that he's got a history of Nazi sympathising with the fact that you guys are pushing an agenda of a white Britain, alarm bells are ringing, red flags are out. You don't see that? Laura, you seem like a sensible girl. I don't know if you've been brainwashed into this nonsense or what, but it is nonsense. You guys are just as dangerous as the far left. You guys are the far right. You are dangerous.
So you're just throwing labels about. You sound like you belong. These belong in hope, not hate.
No. These are real labels.
You've called us Nazi. You've called us fascist. You've called us racist. You've called us far right.
I never called you a Nazi.
Ricky, it's pathetic.
I never called you a Nazi.
It's absolutely pathetic.
Simon, I never called them a Nazi. She's putting words in my mouth. I told her leader is a Nazi sympathizer, and that's a fact. There's evidence.
He's not a Nazi. Nazi, for a start, is an anti-white slur.
National Socialism is Nazism. Look it up.
National Socialism is just an ideology. If you have a problem with it, you don't just get to say. You don't just get to say Nazism.
Isn't it funny?
You're scared of me now.
Laura,
dismantle the ideology, then, Ricky. Dismantle the ideology. Isn't it funny?
All right, I'll dismantle it. All right, I'll dismantle it. 8 million Jews dead in Europe. Dismantled. Finished.
No, that is not the ideology.
National Socialism was
a proven.
Right, Nazi Party were a Nazi party. National Socialism is a political ideology. But anyway, right,
that caused millions of Jews to die.
Yeah, well, right, okay. Now,
no, you can't just.
No. I've not said. I've said. I'm going.
Are we running away from that truth?
Have I said that? I was just listening to you and going, "Hey, yeah, fair enough." Because I can't be going to go. You're right. You're wrong. Can I? As much as I can, right? But you want to know: does Mark Collett worship Adolf Hitler? Now you're saying that he doesn't. Is that correct?
Mark Collett does not worship Adolf Hitler. Patriotic Alternative has put forward a plan, and you can read the plan, and it's not National Socialism. If we were a National Socialist pair of people, then Pierre's plan would be National Socialism. What Ricky's trying to do is bring up the Holocaust, which is, the scariest event from history, to shut down the debate. But he doesn't care about the fact that Jews murdered 20 million people in the Holodomor. In fact, he actually supports a homeland for the Jews in Israel, but he won't do that for the British people in Britain. That's
right, what Laura's just done is, you might have missed it, but what Laura just did is an anti-Semitic slur.
Oh, now I'm anti-Semitic as well.
The Jews were not responsible for Holodomor. You are just throwing things out there.
Mark Collett isn't responsible for the Holocaust, but it doesn't stop you bringing it up.
Yeah, and I didn't say that he was. I just said that he supports the regime that caused and enacted the murder of millions of Jews, and that is a fact.
That is not
deny it.
All right. Well,
it's on video, Channel 4, and you can read his book. It's right there.
That documentary is from 20 years ago.
Do you know him better than me?
Do you want to get onto different questions?
I do know him better than you.
Do you want to? How would you deal with a benefit system for people coming into this country? Each of you. Right. I'll go to you, Ricky. How would you deal with a benefit system?
A benefit system for people coming into this country.
How would you deal with it?
If they're coming in illegally, they need to be returned. No benefits.
But we've got the problem. We have a problem as well with the UN agreement in 1951, which says we've got to give them all of that shit. Yeah. That's a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem. But listen, is when it comes down to December the 31st and when we Brexit, we are going to have more power, and we're going to have the chance to put the Maritime Power Act in and turn the boats around on the water if they're deemed to be illegal immigrants.
Laura, what do you think?
Well, first of all, illegal immigration is just a drop in the water compared to legal immigration. When it comes to legal immigration, we're talking about 2/3 of a million people who are coming into the country every single year. So the figures of illegal immigrants is actually completely insignificant. But what I would do is change the benefits system completely so that rather than it being a hammock that people can lie in and sponge off for their whole lives, it would be a safety net for people in times of need. You would have no benefits if you don't speak English. You would have no benefits unless you're an actual British citizen and you can prove that you're a functioning member of society. But just the concept that illegal immigration, if we stop illegal immigration, we're suddenly going to save the country is ridiculous. For a start, we have people in the country already, a quarter of the population, who have very high fertility rates compared to British people. We're talking 2.5 children per woman for black families and 3.5 children per woman for Pakistani families. And you somehow seem to think that that can just stay, and if we stop illegal immigration, all the problems will be fixed. It's just an incredibly infantile and childish way of thinking. I honestly feel like I'm talking to a 10-year-old.
Right, second, right, over to you.
Right.
But can you throw
some insults out?
Right, okay. Can I have 1 minute out of here, just for 2 seconds, and come back? Can you answer that question in a second, Rikki? I literally bathroom. Sorry.
All right. So look, this is the thing. You never answered me about your leader. Like I said, you seem smart. I don't know how you got into all this stuff, but your leader has proven that he's a sympathizer with the Nazis, with Adolf Hitler, and you guys are pushing an agenda that is against anybody who's not white. That's all. That's kind of the same type of ideology in the Holocaust, wasn't it? It was ethnic cleansing. And
the Holocaust.
Yeah,
again.
but listen. All right,
let's bring up the Holocaust because we're losing the argument.
No, but you guys are promoting an agenda that is a political ethnic cleansing. Do you not see that?
It's not. How is it an ethnic cleansing?
Because you want to
clean
all ethnicities out of the country who are not white.
Rikki, what is the difference between your views and somebody like Ash Sarkar or David Lammy? Because they also think that they are British. So what is the difference between your views and theirs?
My views are very different.
How?
They're not against illegal immigration. They're not.
Okay, so let's just forget about illegal immigration, but their entire worldview.
Also Remainers.
How do you differ from somebody like that?
Listen, this is how I differentiate. I believe in a Britain with secure borders, with a points-based immigration system. I believe in a Britain that takes back foreign aid and invests it in Britain. I believe in a Britain that does everything to make British manufacturing come back and British jobs to increase. And I believe in a Britain that's very difficult to immigrate to, that only accepts people that are going to benefit this country. That's what I believe. That's why I'm different to Ash Sarkar, and that's how I'm different.
Is it benefiting the native population if Chinese, high IQ immigrants are coming over and taking their jobs? Is that benefiting the native population?
I'll tell you who it's benefiting. The people of Britain. And that's
the new people who are coming over from China, because they're just as British as us, right? So yeah, it does benefit them, I'm guessing, but it doesn't actually benefit the British, does it? And I'm talking about the actual British, not just people with British passports. How does the British people becoming a minority in their own country and feeling like a stranger in their own town and crime increasing and then their kids being the only English kid in a classroom, how does that benefit them at all?
Well,
it doesn't.
Listen, that's a problem with immigration. And I've agreed with you, Laura, on immigration.
You've just said that you support a points-based system. That won't slow immigration down. It will just be a different class of immigrants. No, it won't.
It will slow it down.
Well, that tells me that you don't understand the new plan, because it won't.
It will, because it will be harder to get into the country.
The required salary is just above minimum wage. It will not slow it down.
I mean, you keep talking about indigenous British. So I challenge you to a DNA test, and you publicly post your results so we can see how British you are.
Yeah, okay, it's already on YouTube. I'm 100% Northwest European.
Okay, so then we need to see it. Can you retweet it tonight so we can see just?
You can go to my YouTube channel and see it.
You are so indigenous British that you have the right to tell many other British people in this country who don't share the same DNA as you that they shouldn't be living here. You couldn't write it.
Well, again, I haven't said that they shouldn't be living here. I've said that they can have voluntary
Let
repatriation.
me talk about your repatriation plan, all right? So your repatriation plan is to offer incentives of around £15,000 to people who are not indigenous, who are not white British in their DNA, in their history and background. Now, you're looking at around 11 million people that are not white British or indigenous, as you say. So let's just put your 15,000 into 11 million, and guess what you get? 165 billion. That's the exact amount of money that Jeff Bezos is worth. Where are you getting your 165 billion from?
Well, for a start, international aid is around 14 billion per year, and we haven't suggested that they all have to leave in the same year. There's all sorts of places where we can take the money from. I'm actually not concerned about the economic side of it at all. For an example, NHS translators cost us £64,000 per day. Even things like that would be 4 people a day. But international aid is 0.7% of profit. So that's around I mean, we could cover it in maybe 10 years just from international aid alone.
But I think
we're not saying that everybody has to leave in the first year. We're saying over time, that's how it would go on. So the financial side is not a problem at all.
So everybody has to leave over time.
Not everybody, but anybody who wants to.
Everyone who's not white. Oh, okay. Okay, I missed that point.
You mean British?
Sorry, I missed that point. So you're saying that they don't have to leave. So if everybody refuses, it's fine.
We're offering voluntary repatriation if people want to take it. So we've been through this quite a few times.
It needs to be clear. If everyone says no, then the country will remain as it is.
I actually did a speech at the last conference, so it's already very clear. Feel free to go and watch that.
So on your DNA test, you said it's Northern European, so it's
Northwest European. Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean it's British.
That's who we are. Who do you think we are? Where do you think we came from?
So that means everybody is not really truly British, right? If you're Northwestern European, it could be.
So now we
could be Holland.
Just for the audience to listen to this, we're now doing the British people don't exist argument. You have the same arguments as people like Hope Not Hate.
No, British people do exist.
This is not patriotism. You're saying that British people don't exist,
and some of them are black.
You're saying that British people don't exist.
Some British people are black.
This is what people with FBPE in their Twitter names do. You have the same arguments as them.
No. Listen, you refuse to accept that British people can be black, that British people can be Asian, that they can have different skin colours. You reject that. That means you isolate a huge percentage of this country with that ideology. And in such a divisive time, when these different groups are happening and black people and white people are battling with each other because of the BLM things, and everyone's identifying as this and identifying as that. And
because that's natural. Because that's how they do identify.
In this country, you want to create more division. And that's why I say that you're dangerous. You are dangerous to the people of Britain. The whole ideology you're presenting, it lines up with the same Adolf Hitler and Nazi that your guy, Mark Collette, has admitted that he loves.
You have arguments.
You can try and laugh it off because I know you've been made. No, it's not.
No, Rikki, it's pathetic.
I never called anyone a Nazi.
You are.
Called anybody a Nazi.
It's honestly.
I've not called anyone a Nazi.
This conversation is. I can only hope that your audience are listening to this, and they've heard you say that British people don't exist. That it doesn't matter if they become a minority in their own country. And they've heard you call me a Nazi, far right, racist.
Right? Yeah, I got a second. Yeah, I got a second, Rick. What you need to clear up here, Laura, is when you were saying British people, in your view, it's white British people.
It's ethnically British people. Yeah.
Okay, if we say that I got a second. If we say what you're saying is white British people, right? That clears up a lot, and then Rikki can say, "I believe that the British people are people who believe they're British, who are legally British, or that kind of thing." Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when we're on that, you know exactly where you are here, all right? So yours, white British. Yours is mixed British, but British. Correct.
Well, I identify as Chinese now, so I want to be called Chinese because you just have to say that you identify it, and that makes it true, apparently.
Then go back to China.
Twat. Sorry.
Oh.
Oh, what happened?
I took him out.
Why did you take him out?
He wants to call me a twat when he's supposed to be the moderator.
He was laughing at what you said.
It's just me and you now.
He was laughing at what you said.
It's just me and you. So look, point 2 and 3 in your manifesto talks about exempting those who share cultural, ethnic backgrounds and allowing migration of such people. So how do you define them people?
Actually, Rikki, I don't want to continue speaking to you without a moderator. I thought that was very rude. He was actually laughing at your joke, and you just kicked him out, and he's given up his free time to talk to you.
What was rude?
Either you allow Simon back in, or I don't want to talk to you.
It was rude calling me.
He was laughing at your joke because you said go back to China. He laughed when he said it, and you booted him out of. And you know what? You also get very offended at certain memes on Twitter. People have just been posting funny videos and stuff, and you've been DMing me saying, "Oh my God, is this what you guys believe?" It's just a joke. If you're going to be involved in politics, you're really going to have to learn to toughen up, because you're not going to last 2 minutes.
I'm not going to last 2 minutes. Listen, I've already said your ideology is not a sticker. You've not came here. You've shown me or the people watching nothing in terms of proof or evidence that your ideology is good. All you've done is show that you guys are led by a Nazi sympathizer, and your ideology lines up with that of the Nazis. So I think it's very fair to say that you guys are really on the wrong side of history.
You've not done well in this debate at all. You've just called me a Nazi because you have no arguments.
And I still haven't called anybody a Nazi.
That's literally what you're doing. You've brought up the Holocaust about 15 times, and you've called people Nazis. You don't have any arguments. But are we going to finish this then? Because you've booted Simon, and I don't want to talk to you without a moderator.
Yeah, no problem. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And even though I don't agree with your stance, and obviously you don't agree with mine, debate's important. Do you know what I mean? And there's certainly no hatred from my side towards you or anything. It's just a difference of ideas. And I hope that you can come round and see sense and see that you're pushing an evil ideology.
Yeah. My ideology is non-negotiable. I'm never going to say that it's fine for the British to become a minority in Britain. I don't think that you will ever change your mind, but I hope that your audience listens to some of the things that I said today. And I hope that if any of your audience do think that the British exist and that we should be the majority in our own country, I would hope that they joined us at Patriotic Alternative, because Rikki can't even answer that question about whether we deserve our own homeland. But it's different for the Jews in Israel.
Who's we? Who's we? That's the thing.
No, listen, I'm going to go now, Rikki.
People need to run away from Patriotic Alternative as quick as they can. British Lives Matter is the movement for all British people, not just white people. It's not a racist movement, as you've proven Patriotic Alternative is.
Evil Nazis. We're evil Nazis. But all right. Thank you to everyone in the audience for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you again soon.
Proving it.